Welcome back to the Rotary Sunday series, and we are very happy to see that this is gaining so much momentum and so much of information that you're seeking. And we will take this opportunity to bring to you the different Rotary heroes and legends as we trace their journey on the episode. Let's get started. This time, we have got our District Governor, Rotarian Prabhashankar with us, who is specially known for being that quiet, passionate, but very powerfully making the right moves in Rotary to help administration shine. Right? What would Rotary be without administration? We will hear more about that from our own District Governor, past District Governor, Rotarian Prabhashankar. Welcome to you, sir.
Thank you, Sanjay.
So, sir, we have heard so much about this particular area and especially the lack of it, if I may use that term. So, what is it that you really found useful and how you really went into it in depth?
You know, Sanjay, this whole Rotary movement is completely on the public money and public service, which is, or the community service, which will go into the main objective. So that being the case, it is very essential that the administration of the club must be strong and should be sound enough, and people who take the responsibility should be accountable. So that being the case, forming a team and taking forward, and the club president and the secretary to run through the whole process is very important. And the support from the members of the club is also equally important, because ultimately the club administration stands right on the top to make sure that the club is successful in implementing their projects, in giving what members are looking for in terms of service to the community. So I rate administration of a club as to be very, very high, and there should be a transparency in every transaction what they go through. So my feeling is that I think many of the clubs require a lot of handhold. The reason being that they are all started in the last couple of years, and not enough information or the objectives have been briefed to them to make sure that the club is taken forward.
Absolutely, no doubt on that. Also, it is heartening to know that you're bringing your profession into this as well. So the way you can set up processes to help administer, being a chartered accountant yourself, probably helps. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the coffin, in the sense, Rotary, you know, it works on vocational excellence. And I've been selected as a member of the Rotary Club of Bangalore mainly on my vocation being a chartered accountant. Obviously, you know, my area of extending my service is more towards the admin, and if you ask me for a community service, I am not a doctor to sort of stand by. But if you ask me anything regarding the finance, regarding the administration, regarding the controls, transparency, I'll be able to give my best whatever I am doing. So ultimately, it matters that, you know, my profession has given me a lot of support in terms of making sure that the administration and the finances are taken care properly.
In fact, that's the power of Rotary, right? Where we bring in people with so many different professions together and make the best use of it. So that's probably one nice thought for our current leaders to consider. How do you strengthen your administration? And let's hear from you, sir, about the finance part, which probably has different ways to look at it, and then we'll come to audit as well.
You touched a very, very sensitive point, the sensitive area, because ultimately money what matters everywhere. There are many complaints at various levels where people say that, or the members say that the club administration is not clean, they are not giving proper accounts. So ultimately what matters is the administration. Once you tighten up, you have a club bylaws which will rule or which will take you forward in a disciplined manner, then only it will work. For example, there are some very good clubs where the boards are formed and then the treasurer is there. And the treasurer, in my opinion, is the custodian of funds. But there are some clubs where president and secretary, they only sign the checks and give it away. The treasurer is not even aware. So what we do is in our places where administration is good, we make treasurer accountable for everything. So therefore, it's a mandatory signatory for treasurer to make sure that the checks are signed by him, bank account is operated by him, along with president or secretary. So it's very important that this part of it, the treasurer should be held responsible for everything what goes in or what comes.
That's an excellent thought. I mean, that's the portfolio he is holding as a treasurer.
And going forward, what happens? There are lots of loose talks sometimes. Where people say Rotary meetings are more of roti meetings because people dine and wine, members wine and dine. But all this wine and dine must take place only in the administration account. Certainly not in anything to do with the charity account. That's the reason why any funding should be very clearly defined. What is charity, what is administration. And charity is like, you touch 1 rupee out of it, it's like a fire. It will burn you. Obviously, with that being the case, it's necessary that every rupee what a person or a CSR money comes into you goes to the cause for which it has been meant for. And as you know, it's very important from the taxation point of view also that once you sort of go with this kind of clean accounting, then it will become easier for you to handle it at a next level of taxation and other things. And as you know that the clubs, Rotary clubs are basically an unregistered body. In the sense, we are not registered under a Trust Act, Societies Act, nothing of that kind. You are only issued a charter by the Rotary International. And based on that, you obtain PAN number from the Income Tax Department and you start filing as an association of persons. So obviously, this is association of persons with mutual benefit because what we call it as a mutuality concept. In a mutuality concept, there is no taxation applicable. I am a member, you are a member, we pool in our money as membership fees. We use it for administration expenses, we use it for running the club. So therefore, anything surplus generated out of it is not taxable. Now, there is also a charity account which most of the clubs have got a separate charitable trust. They make a fresh trust, they have created assets because as you know, Rotary International does not support or encourage owning a fixed asset in the name of the Rotary clubs. They don't want the Rotary clubs to own any assets. So therefore what happens is most of the clubs, they form the charitable trust and the charitable trust will own the property if they have a service center or they have a house of friendship or whatever it is. So ultimately those assets are held by them. There are sometimes schools which are owned by clubs. So these trusts run it. And once you enter into a trust, then you come under income tax 12A registration, 80G deductions because the donors want some deduction for the contributions what they make. So obviously, whatever is being done, it is accountable and there is some scrutiny which has to take place.
Right. So therefore, finance itself has got two very clear distinctions. One, an administrative part and the other, the charity part.
Absolutely.
And like you said, the charity part is something where you have to be really careful because it's donors, different kinds of donors, maybe even Rotarian donors, but then the cause for which they have donated, you want to ensure that the funds are used only for that particular cause. And the administration is fine. It's run with that association of persons that you described.
Yeah. And here I want to make it very clear that the charity money should not get diverted to administration.
Yes, very, very critical.
Very critical issue. See, you may have surplus generated in administration account which may come for charity. That's not an issue at all because ultimately you have been wise enough running the club after taking budgets and all that and you have saved somewhere and you have surplus and you want to put it back to the charity. Fair enough, that's fair enough. But charity money cannot be used for this. And I also want to stress here that CSR funding, I think today so much of money flow is there from CSR that not only we are accountable, these corporates are also accountable.
Yes.
Under the Companies Act, as you know, that every money what they spend, it has to be clearly substantiated as to how that money it has been utilized for the purpose of charity.
That particularly takes that link into the audit function, because if the corporates and especially the CSR point, and if even they are accountable, I'm sure they must be wanting a proper track of everything that there has happened. So what are your thoughts around that aspect of audit?
I've seen that many clubs, particularly president secretaries, have a tendency to have an auditor who is his friend or a relative, or what we call it as relative, closely related people. But I must say that there should be a factor which needs to be considered, that an auditor has to be out of all this relationship. He has to be a party who has no particular inclination towards this. And any club, when they would like to appoint an auditor, should make sure that that continuity is there. And also you got to understand that the Rotary accounts are not as simple as what we do in a commercial setup, because there are lots of intricacies involved, and absolutely it is little difficult for any regular practicing chartered accountants to understand. Yes, charity is there, but when you have larger clubs having some 10, 20 different kinds of projects, you would like to make sure that the cost apportionment is also based on that, so that you have utilized the money for what purpose it has been received. It's very important here that what we call it as earmarked funds, when it comes in to the system, this money should be utilized only for the earmarked funds or the projects. If any diversion is there, then you are ending up with a tax liability. So obviously this monitoring is required to be done to make sure that the third party, the auditor or the qualified chartered accountant, have a duty to make sure that it is properly adhered to. And once you have proper accounts completed, audit completed, there comes the transparency where you are going to put it across. And it's very important that every club must circulate the accounts, audited accounts, to all the members and pass it in the general body.
Right.
We have been hearing a lot of clubs, they have not given accounts for 2 years, 3 years, and this is sad. This is really sad, because we are accountable everywhere, at every stage.
And I'm sure it has an impact on the brand of Rotary itself.
Absolutely.
That to Rotary International. So there we go, the current leaders. I think we've got some real good nuggets about club administration, especially focusing on finance, the differentiation between the administration funds and the charity funds, and then the audit trail that really brings about that transparency and includes you sharing all this information with all the members of the club, so that there is total transparency at all levels. On that note, I think thank you very much, DG.
Thank you, Sanjay. If this is going to help some of the clubs, I'd be too happy, and they're most welcome to come back to me in case they want to have more clarification or maybe any kind of guidance, because I'm here for last 38 years in this Rotary.
Lovely, thank you so much. I think what better can you ask? Rotary Sunday Series, DG Prabhashankar specifically calling out, saying that he is happy to help. Please do take his guidance if you need that, and I'm sure he'll help. He has helped so many other clubs as well. Thank you for your time today, and I'm sure we will really enjoy having all our leaders look at this and maybe take what is relevant for them.
Thank you, Sanjay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.